Education Charitable Trust is lovingly called as BECT or BECT. BECT was formed in 2014 by some of us who grew up in Bhilai. We have given various scholarships for academic excellence and merit-cum-merit scholarships to those in need. We provide free JEE and NEET training to talented students. BECT has created digital classrooms in various schools, and we have also set up a computer lab in Azad Higher Secondary School. We provide free NTSE coaching, spoken English coaching, free computer education at Neki Ki Pathshala. Our volunteers from BIT help the visually challenged with their academic learning by tutoring them. We are providing online JEE and NEET classes during the pandemic to about 40 plus students. We also conduct health awareness camps, BECT talks to motivate, nourish and guide the young minds, book distribution camps, and organize various contests through our social media platforms. We have touched over 1,200 lives with the help of our team of 41 members, including trustees, advisory members, donors, volunteers, and now BECT ambassadors. We spend 25 lakh rupees yearly in all our operations. We aim to do much more, so please come and join us if you would like to be involved in any of our activities. Together, we can bring smiles and see the change. Bhilai Education Charitable Trust welcomes you to an exciting evening. Today, you will meet a dynamic legal entrepreneur, Anirudh Rastogi. He will tell us about innovation and futuristic laws. Anirudh Rastogi was born on 12 November 1983 in Jabalpur. Anirudh's father, Mr. Arvind Rastogi, is the owner and CEO of Technovations, an engineering company in Bhilai. And his mother, Mrs. Rashmi Rastogi, used to lecture at Bhilai Mahila Mahavidyalaya. Anirudh is alumnus of Delhi Public School Bhilai, National Law Institute, University Bhopal, and the world's most prestigious Harvard Law School. Anirudh Rastogi is the founder of an award-winning law firm, Ikigai Law, that specializes in representing innovation-led businesses. Ikigai Law has a market-leading regulatory, policy, and commercial law practice for technology and innovation-led businesses. The firm provides legal and strategic advice to a wide variety of clients, from high-impact startups to mature market-leading companies, and are often at the forefront of policy and regulatory debates for emerging business models. The firm has represented some of the most exciting entrepreneurial and innovative ventures in the country that include satellite manufacturers, virtual reality hardware, content developers, e-commerce companies, social media platforms, cloud service providers, blockchain, and other fintech ventures. Anirudh has been involved with several first-of-their-kind technology mandates, such as the world's first private lunar mission, Hyperloop India, and the setting of some of India's first digital asset exchanges. He was named Achiever of the Year Under 40 in 2017 by Business World and named a pioneer by the Economic Times for his contribution to the drone policy in India. Ikigai Law was instrumental in the historic moment on 4th March 2020 when Supreme Court had lifted the de facto ban by RBI on cryptocurrency trading in India. The firm was the winner of the Mid-Size Law Firm of the Year Award in 2019, Startup Law Firm of the Year 2018, and Social Impact Law Firm of the Year 2017. Ikigai Law was named the Boutique Law Firm and Employer of Choice in 2019 by Asian Legal Business and Technology, Media Telecom, and Aviation, Aerospace, Defense Practices are recognized by Chambers and Partners and Legal 500. Anirudh is visiting faculty at NLU Delhi and IIM Indore. He is the author of the book Cyber Law, published by international publisher LexisNexis, and he mentors startups from time to time. Legal 500 described him as someone who connects with his clients and provides long-lasting solutions. Let me welcome the millennial who thinks like a digital native, Gen Z, Anirudh Rastogi. Welcome, Anirudh.
Hello, Juiji. How are you? Thank you so much for having
I'm
me here.
Yeah, it's so wonderful to see you. After reading the introduction of your illustrious career, I still want to ask you why, Anirudh, did you choose law as career despite being brought up in JE environment, IIT environment in Bhilai?
Sure. I think it's a slightly long story, and for the most part, growing up, I was, in any case, quite sure that I would be doing engineering. I think I was preparing for some of the engineering entrance examinations, as were most kids at that time in my class. I one day overheard my father talking to somebody else, and he said, why are you pushing your son to do engineering? There isn't really much kind of potential down this road." And I was a little surprised that to hear him giving this piece of advice to other people and their kids, but not kind of not sharing his concerns or his thoughts with me. And I actually asked him why, and he said that, well, one, I didn't mention this to you because I did not want to. I want you to do what you want to, and I don't want to influence you into kind of thinking one way or the other. You should chase whatever interests you. And I said, all right, that's fine, but why do you think, why do you think that engineering is not really the kind of, a sound career path, or maybe that one should look at alternatives? And he said that, well, I think engineering is quite a saturated kind of is increasingly becoming a saturated kind of option. One is that no matter what you do, you ultimately end up no matter what branch of engineering you take up, you ultimately end up doing, joining a software company. And that was pretty much the trend at that time around, 2001 or so, when 2000, which is when I graduated from school. And so that's one. And there are just too many engineering, kids doing engineering, too many engineering colleges, not as many jobs. And look at some alternative career options which are opening up, which we sitting in Bhilai don't always kind of end up exploring. So I asked him, what is it that you have in mind? And he gave me. I mean, he said, well, I've read a couple of news reports about how corporate law is going to emerge as an interesting career option, and accountancy and whatnot. So I said to myself that, all right, I mean, at least let me explore these options, right? So it didn't quite change necessarily anything overnight, but I thought, let me just explore. And so I went down the path of ordering some prospectus from academic institutions for law and whatnot. And I got really fascinated when I read through the prospectus for law from the college that I ultimately ended up joining. I was quite fascinated by how liberal the course seemed to be in terms of the breadth of subjects that it covered. So that's how I kind of by accident, got down to exploring the possibility of doing law, and went down that path.
Right. So, because you are established lawyer and having a law firm, would you like to give any message to students, school students, when they are deciding on a career, and especially the Bhilai students?
No, sure. I mean, see, we all know that Bhilai has a certain leaning towards, and I mean, like the rest of the country, but Bhilai is just kind of next level in that sense of the kind of obsession that we have for engineering and the IITs, and there's a track record. There are examples, of people who've done, who've aced IIT, JEE, and all, and they serve as role models for many kids there, right? So I think for good or bad, we don't really have, or at least back in the day, we did not really have those kind of role models or examples. And I think it's important for us to be slightly more open towards our own interests and the possibilities that we can explore, right, from a career standpoint. But honestly, it's not about engineering or law or doctorate. I mean, explore arts, explore hospitality, explore whatever, and take your time to explore. I would say,
Hmm.
explore your interests, and I think that's really my limiting message. Also, it is not that you study engineering, you necessarily become an engineer, or you study
Exactly.
civil engineering, you definitely take on. I mean, most of them, any which way, end up doing software. But the point is that ultimately you will have you can always give yourself opportunities to pivot to other things, to explore other interests. So it's not that if you study law or if you study arts, that's all that you will end up doing. In fact, a lot of the beauty of good education is that it really enables you to kind of I think it's just widening your horizons, right? Good education is basically giving you is making you more confident, making you more aware of what's out there, and you can use all of that to essentially venture into all kinds of career options. I think so. You could do law, and like me, you could become an entrepreneur. You could get into social service or politics or engineering again if you wanted to. I know lawyers who've taken to legal technology or even just entrepreneurship and technology entrepreneurship. So you have all kinds of examples, and I think we need to be a little more open to those possibilities. I think that's really all I would like to say.
Okay. Can you tell me if is it tough to be a first generation lawyer? Because most of the lawyers I know and myself, we all have our fathers and grandfathers being the lawyer. And so law just naturally happens on the day of our birth that this person will do LLB. So you are the first generation lawyer in your family, which I presume. So is it tough to be a first generation lawyer?
No, it's easier. Um, I always say that it helps to be an outsider. It gives you a fresh perspective to things, and so it really depends on how you look at it, right?
All right.
Obviously, I mean, if you're not a first generation lawyer, you may have a lot of things served to you on a platter, which helps, and it's helped a lot of people. But likewise, listen, you have to make the most of the cards you're dealt with.
All
And
right.
I see a lot of first generation lawyers or first generation anything, and having done really well.
All right.
So I think it's the same rules apply to law as well.
All right. I understand because for us it used to be like you will get the practice, you will get the library, and the name. Anyways, let's move on. You have been to some of the most prestigious educational institutions. What are your takeaways from each one, and what ways these institutions have shaped you as a person?
I think
So you can.
all institutions, educational institutions that I've been part of, have been very instrumental in shaping me for sure. Uh, and
Maybe let's
um,
begin with DPS and then Bhopal and then
Sure,
Harvard University.
sure. So Delhi Public School was, I mean, see, I was, and I was lucky to have a really good uh, peer group. I was lucky to have the teachers I had, and Bhilai generally as a place is a very interesting kind of town, and I narrate the story very often that Bhilai is unlike many other small towns. It really, and it's something to do with the history of the town itself, right? It was essentially set up as an industrial township in the middle of nowhere, and which meant that you had people from literally from all over the country, and top engineers. At that time, a government job was prestigious. We're talking about the early '60s when, or if I'm not wrong, that was the time when the Bhilai steel plant was set up. And you had people from all over who were really good at their professions. They were very well educated, come together in this so high density of talent, right, and aspirational people, and that's kind of flown, seeped in into into the next generation of Belians. It's seeped into the educational institutions and what we demand of their educational institution as well. So the school is a reflection of that, right? So you had really good teachers. You had a set of parents who were obsessed with academic excellence, and you had the external ecosystem also. So you had these coaching institutes, and you had extracurricular activities and whatnot. So all of this was kind of was high quality, right? And I remember being, I think I was, I think I'm definitely deeply influenced by some of my teachers who had a very interesting approach to a lot of things they did, the way they taught us, encouraging that they were committed as they were towards our performance and growth. And I think it comes from the cultural kind of setup that Bhilai has enjoyed as such, because of the history that I just mentioned. So that was incredible, I think. And within school itself, I definitely had some really interesting, friends who I think I'm very influenced by. I think I must have been influenced by in my early formative years. I mean, there were some of whom I still remain in touch with, and not. But I remember having a set of friends who were always, trying to do different kinds of things, who were always, not necessarily just academics, but in extracurricular activities. They were doing creative things and all. And that, by the way, is not a norm in Bhilai. Like Bhilai is typically very geared towards academic excellence, and that to sciences and math. But I was just lucky to have these set of friends, or maybe I kind of sought out these friends possibly, who had interests beyond just that.
That's
And
wonderful.
that was quite interesting. And if I see, I mean, some of these friends have actually gone on to do very interesting things in life as well. So outside of just engineering and sciences and whatnot. So that was nice. But all in all, DPS was a great experience, and ultimately, in fact, I went on. I remember I was a prefect in school as well, and that experience was nice. It gave me a lot of confidence. So yeah, so that was DPS. National Law Institute University in Bhopal was probably the first time that I ventured out of Bhilai. I spent a lot of time outside of Bhilai. And it was interesting in many ways. One, that uh, it was a very different set of the different set of people, but I also say that Bhilai has a certain kind of it is not truly reflective of the country that we live in, because while you have people from all over the country, it gives you a sense of being sort of cosmopolitan, that you have people, you have people from all over, but they've also mingled into kind of it's a melting pot as well. Like, everybody has a very homogeneous kind of culture as well, which is not truly representative of a lot of other kind of parts of the country necessarily. And Bhopal, for
Absolutely.
the first time, got me in touch with people from different parts of the country, who belonged to different parts, who spoke different languages. So Bhilai, has people from, even if you're from Kerala originally, for instance, you very much fluently speak Hindi, right?
Yeah.
And you have that kind of homogeneous approach to life and whatnot. But Bhopal the university was different, because you actually had somebody from down south who spoke the language, who thought differently, and you got challenged more often. You had different perspectives, so that was very interesting. It was Bhopal had a really, really kind of good. It gave me a lot of confidence, because I ventured out from day one to doing a lot of. I pushed myself to do a lot of new things. I, participated in a lot of different kinds of activities, which were not necessarily academic, and that really, I think, went on to give me a lot of confidence, shape me as the person I am, and it gave me the confidence that it's doable. You know. I so yeah, that was Bhopal for me, and then I went on to Bombay. I worked there for a year before I went to do my law at Harvard, and that also was an experience that was both humbling. It was transformative in many ways, but very often I tell people, like, it's not, it was such a deep experience that you don't realize how valuable it is or transformative it is on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, or while you're on the campus. So, in fact, I remember asking myself on the campus, like, well, hey, what's the big deal? Like, now that you're here and you've read all these things about this university, you've heard so much about it. but what's really different, right? I mean, it's ultimately people like you. It's
But
an
you're talking
education.
about Howard right now, is it?
I am very much. And it is only years later when you look back, you realize how transformative some of those experiences were. So I think the best of education is like that, right? I mean, it seeps in, it takes time to kind of, it remains with you and it shows up eventually. So it was in some ways that it was, in certain ways very interesting because it also pushed me to be a different person in certain ways. I remember feeling very challenged. For the first time, I was with again, like as I said, from Bhilai when I moved to Bhopal, I was for the first time meeting people from all over the country. I went to Howard and there were literally people from all over the world, literally more than 70 odd countries in my class alone. And that was quite overwhelming because you did not know what to talk about. You did not relate to many people culturally. You did not understand what they were saying. They were speaking the language, but they were talking about different things which did not necessarily make sense to you. And I felt very, it took me a little while to kind of find my way around and make friends and whatnot. But when it started to happen, I think when I came out of the university, I was quite a different personality in that sense. Like I was very comfortable walking around in a room, talking to different people from different places, countries. That did not seem overwhelming to me anymore. Having said that, I will say this, that, and this is my experience from having, from these three institutions. I think each were equally transformative in their own way as well. I was a lot more mature when I went to Harvard to, have been able to draw these lessons and articulate them so well. I may not have been able to do that from when I was 16 years old at DPS Bhilai or 20 at Bhopal, because I myself was not as mature to draw as much from those experiences. And what I want to tell everybody, and especially young students, is that no matter what situation you are in, what institution you are in, what set of people you are with, it is absolutely up to you to draw the lessons that you want to, and push yourself to draw more out of, like, squeeze more out of those situations. So I don't think you necessarily have to be at a Harvard to draw those lessons. I did that equally well with Bhopal. I could have done better if I were, if I had that kind of an outlook towards life when I was at Bhopal or at DPS Bhilai. So,
Precisely.
yeah, I mean, I think, as I said earlier, you have to draw the most out of the cards that are dealt to you, really.
So this is the reason we are doing these talks to inspire the young generation. Now, can you tell Anirudh that what would you advise to a fresher who's beginning the career in law? Like, can you go back in time and advise yourself when you were beginning the career? What one or two things would you like to tell that student who is beginning a career in law right now?
So I think I find it slightly hard to make this advice just kind of focused on law students. I think I want to give advice generally for anybody who's young, or actually at any stage in your life. But okay, but if I were to force myself, I think for law students, for young lawyers generally, yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to throw some light on generalist and specialist here? Because when I remember doing law, I would think about family laws, and during those time, criminal law was not appreciated well because you just have to study two, three books, to be a criminal lawyer. So
No.
maybe something like in terms when they are already a law student or they just came out of the university, what should be the thing that they should keep in mind?
So I'm not going to give a very direct answer to this. And
Okay.
see, I also find it very hard to answer questions in binaries. I typically don't have a binary approach, which is that be a generalist or be a specialist. I think the answer, um, I mean, either could very well work, and I'm going to elaborate on this. I won't leave the question with such a cryptic answer. You could make either work. You need to have thought it through, and you need to be strategic and committed to which path you're choosing. Or you could choose both paths as well, and you can navigate both. And I've actually done that. I've been a generalist in my younger years, and then been a deep specialist, and then chosen a very kind of a slightly more mixed approach as well. So let me kind of give more context to this, right? It is there are benefits to both approaches, right? A generalist approach, and I would say that I'll challenge that why only generalist to me doesn't necessarily mean just generalist within the legal profession, right? It is also, I mean, like an all-rounded kind of personality where you're open to, you understand economics and the economy, you understand politics and political sciences. You are and I mean, I'm a student also of business and management and leadership, and which I've kind of been able to draw into my career as a lawyer. So I think it's important to have a very holistic kind of approach to things, and the more you expose yourself to a wide variety of things outside of law, subjects apart from law, and within the law itself also, I think you can draw all of those things, draw lessons from all of those things, as you know, Steve Jobs very famously said, right? I mean, how he looks at connecting the dots. So he studied calligraphy and then took it to, kind of developing the kind of fonts that Apple computers actually offer.
Yes.
Now, so that's that. But then at the same time, I'm a big believer in the power of focus and specialization as well, right? And the super sharp, the I keep saying this within the firm, within our firm as well. The less you do, or rather, less is more, right? So the less and less you focus on, the better you can deliver. In fact, our entire life journey at Ikigai Law has been one of being super specialized in certain kinds of areas, and we strive to be the best in those very very narrow niche areas. So I think that there's a great power to being specialized, because it is increasingly, and the time that we are in today, also in law, lawyers have been known to be generalists, right? Most lawyers tend to take up anything and everything that comes their way. And I think we are in an era where that doesn't quite work very well, because there is so much deep specialization. There are so many people who offer specialist knowledge and expertise that as a generalist you just cannot deliver equally well. So that notion of being a generalized lawyer is getting challenged. So I think you need to have a mix of both. You need to be exposed to a variety of things, but you need to choose your specialization very well. And I think 10 years, 20 years ahead, it will be a time for the specialists more than the generalists, clearly, and you can see that happening very much.
Correct, correct. Can you tell us, you had a nice career in Singapore and a comfortable life. What prompted you to come back to India and start this Ikigai Law? Tell us about your journey of becoming an entrepreneur, legal entrepreneur.
Um, no, so Singapore was. I mean, I had a really enjoyable time in Singapore, and honestly, if it had been a pure lifestyle decision, I would have probably never kind of plunged back. But I think I had a certain itch, and I can't explain what it was. I really wanted to come back. I couldn't explain it then as to, but I used to keep saying, well, there's a lot of opportunity in India and this and that. And they were just big words in my mind. But there was an itch, and I do say this, that at least for a lawyer, I thought that you are the most effective in a country that you have grown up in a society you understand, if you understand the ways of doing business, etc., right? Because law is so much more than just it's not just the law books. It's actually ultimately how you apply the law to real life situations, real life problems in business and society and in the economy and in politics and whatnot. So it is helpful to be in a country that you've grown up in. So that was part one, and part two was I just felt that there was a lot of stuff that was going on in India, and I wanted to be a part of that. So that was one reason why I kind of decided to come back. But I did not come back thinking that I would necessarily start a law firm. I came back thinking that I would start something of my own. It did not necessarily have to be a law firm. So that's again going back to the point that I said, that I see the value in being an outsider. I think a lot of the interesting stuff, very unique stuff that we've been able to do is partly because I was always an outsider to the practice of law, because I did not necessarily want to be a lawyer. I saw a lot of things which were wrong with the practice, or in the way that a lot of people practice law, or so being an outsider was very helpful. Right, it gave me the fresh perspective to things.
All right. Why did you specially chose technology law? Any important traits you can share that a person should have to choose this path, innovation industry or technology law?
Sure. I mean, there was so a couple of things. One is that, as I said earlier, I think I latched on to this idea very very early that that ultimately you have to be the best uh, at whatever you do, which means that you do less and less. You don't try and do anything and everything, uh, and um uh, and hence the desire to kind of specialize in something. But technology, because, well, technology is both a niche, which mean and not. It is a niche in the sense that it's something which is it's not something which a lot of lawyers understand very easily. It has its own kind of complexity to the industry, to the regulation and law around technology, etc. So it's a niche which allows me and my firm to stand apart, right, from others who don't necessarily have that expertise. But it's also not a niche, which means that it's not necessarily a small market, because technology today is so all pervasive, right? It cuts across just about everything. So when I work with say an aggregator of hotels, for example, I'm working with a technology company, but I'm also working with a hotel company. When I work with an aggregator of cabs, I'm working with a mobility company, but it's also a technology company. When I work with so we work with a lot of industries which are a lot of technology which is cutting across almost every single aspect of your life, every single industry out there. So we are today actually we are exposed to, and we are deriving business from just about every part of the economy. But at the same time, we are super specialized, and there are not too many people who can claim to do that kind of work, right? So just to give you an example, we very much work with finance banks and financial companies, but on the financial technology aspect. We work with real estate companies, but on the technology side of things.
Mhm.
Right? We work with alcohol companies, but on the alcohol, there's a lot of new kind of technology related issues coming into even the alcohol industry. So there's just a whole host of things that we are able to work with. So that's why I find it fascinating. I think this is going to be a very very large kind of industry. It already is, and in time to come as well. So that's why I'm very excited about it.
All right. Basically, I would love to hear some more about your Ikigai law, the kind of work that you do. I had seen a beautiful TED talk of yours where you were talking about uh, creatively thinking about contracts, reimagining contracts. So, how did you come up with this idea of audio contracts? I just love the idea of those cold storage contract with the farmers. Can you just tell something about this and maybe one or two important work that you have done regarding cryptocurrency or the space or even alcohol for you? Maybe it's something to do with e-commerce. Just throw some light on the kind of work that you do.
Sure. So I can first maybe talk a little about the kind of work that we do, and then come to the specific kind of
Sure.
contract-related work that we've done, what we call as reimagining. I mean, just say simple, well-designed contracts, basically. So the kind of work that we do is basically anything and everything to do with new businesses, right? So we typically see. I mean, we can technically be lawyers to just about everybody, but we don't do that. We choose to work with people who are setting up newer businesses, new age businesses, new models or new technologies. And the reason is that I think our skill set is best suited for or most valuable to these businesses, because we like to bring a certain layer of creativity to applying the law, and that is most valuable when you're dealing with kind of newer new age businesses and stuff. So what is the kind of work that we do with these businesses? It could be we help them with investments, we help them raise funds from private investors, which typically is something where which is where you require our assistance in drafting those agreements, negotiating them. We work with essentially understanding how the law will apply to a completely new technology, right? So imagine some of the space related work that we've done, where we've helped companies launch satellites with ISRO and with other launch providers all over the world. Or we've worked with companies that are say for instance, health telemedicine companies that are launching, say, a telemedicine product for remotely running an intensive care unit. So you have a senior intensivist, a doctor sitting in Delhi, but operating on somebody in a smaller town where you don't have that kind of expertise available, and they're doing that using a certain technology platform. Now, to work with these new technologies, you need to, where the law or the legal framework itself is very kind of is underdeveloped, or it's not developed at all. How do you apply? How do you even think about the law and the legal risks that such businesses will be exposed to? So, for instance, in the telemedicine example I gave you, what if there is there's a power failure, and at that point the intensivist is no longer able to operate on this person who's already in a critical situation, right? Will there be a negligence or a legal kind of claim against either the doctor or the platform, etc.? Right. So those are the kind of difficult questions that we try and answer when there is actually the law itself is very underdeveloped, right? So that's a big part of what we do, and then what we also help is with intellectual property related issues for these kind of technologies. We help with a lot of contract work with these technologies. So contracts between any third parties. You're trying to sell your technology, or you're trying to franchise your technology, license it, etc. So you need, these contracts are heavily negotiated, right? So that's the kind of work that we do. Now, within technology, within contracts itself, it's a we've always had this perspective, and call it the outsider's perspective, right? Because as lawyers, we've for hundreds of years, we've always thought of that contracts should look a certain way. It's always very overwhelming. It's jargony. It's difficult to read, difficult to understand. And as I say, it's designed not for the other party who's signing the contract. It's designed for their lawyers. Like, the party who's signing the contract doesn't quite understand what the hell is going on in that document. And being the outsider that I was, and that we have tried to be in this firm, we started challenging those notions. We said that, well, these contracts should not be meant for their lawyers. They should be meant for the parties to the contracts. And so let's super simplify them. Let's write them in a way that people can't understand them. So we started saying, all right, what is the kind of format, what is the kind of language that people will be most comfortable with? And if you see that increasingly in business, we are no longer writing 30-page contracts. We are simplifying the language. We have begun to use PowerPoint presentations, using infographics. Okay. We've begun to use Excel sheets. We said, why can't we use the same formats for contracts as well? So literally, can I use a contract with infographics to explain the point far more simply, right? And we try to do that in many cases. So to give you an example, you talked about this farmer contracts for farmers. So these are high-stake contracts, but with people who could not literally read and write. So we started to use audio contracts, which to record the understanding, or contracts with graphics to kind of simplify things. And there's a pushback. There are people who will question whether these contracts are enforceable in the court or not. And we've made a strong case for why they should be enforceable. And there's a lot of work that has gone into kind of thinking through these contracts to make them legally robust. So that's the kind of work that we've tried to do in simplifying or reimagining contracts as such. And a lot of companies have actually shown interest, I mean, big and small, in taking up these kind of documents.
Quite a creative lawyering, as you said. I really enjoyed that. Can we have a look at a slideshow that I prepared for you?
Okay, sure.
All pictures taken from public domain. I hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. It was good to see this.
Okay. So, Anirudh, tell us, future law firms won't only hire lawyers. I read it somewhere, or you said it somewhere, but will function with a multidisciplinary team. You have designers and engineers in your team. What do they do?
Sure. No, so see, ultimately, I think the role of the traditional lawyer is, or you know, uh, the role of a lawyer is firstly not in any case limited to the courtroom anymore, right? I mean, you have lawyers advising very extensively on so for example, lawyers for business need to have a deep understanding of the business that they are advising, right? Because otherwise you can't really apply the law. You have to apply the law in a certain context. So if you are and to understand that context, you need to have the right kind of experience, the right kind of education to be able to do that. So if, for example, if we are advising clients who are deep technology clients, right, who do say say very kind of high cutting edge technology that's not easily understood. You need to have that kind of a background to appreciate the business firstly, to then provide legal advice to it. Likewise, if you are say for example a lawyer for a tax lawyer, I mean it would be helpful if you have actually worked for a couple of years as a chartered accountant, for example. You are very comfortable with balance sheets, and you can
Mhm.
pass through them and really make sense of them. So I think the more we so likewise now today you have lawyers who are specializing in fashion, for example. You have lawyers who specialize in space, in financial regulation, in banking, in projects, So it would because so you need to have lawyers with that kind of diverse experience then, or that kind of specialized experience, and then they can apply the law better. But that's not only it. I want to take it one step further and say that, well, ultimately, a lawyer with with some slight exposure to technology, or some slight exposure to banking or space or fashion or whatever, is not still as kind of equipped to deal with challenging work, or to provide really challenge kind of to really push the boundaries, as somebody who specializes in that field, is not necessarily a lawyer, but rather just a technologist, right? Or say a doctor, if you're advising health companies. And so what I mean is that a law firm should
Mhm.
be able to bring together professionals who are not only lawyers but also these kind of specialists, to
Mm.
then advise jointly in conjunction, and solve these challenging problems together, right?
Correct.
And that is where, say an engineer on our team would come in, and who would be able to then simplify and help us as lawyers make sense of the technology that we are advising around. Or say we work with say graphic designers today for the kind of contract work that I spoke about, where if you have to simplify a contract using graphics, I need somebody who is a pro in that space, right? Who can think creatively around how to communicate a tough, difficult thing easily
Okay.
using graphics, for example. So there's ample potential to bring in people from different areas of expertise together in a law firm, and I think that will be the future of the law firm.
Yeah. I mean, after seeing you and reading about you, I totally believe it. Can you tell us, do you think that AI, machine learning, will change the legal sector? How do you see the future of legal industry with their coming in and they're just around the corner?
No, sure. I mean, artificial intelligence is definitely going to change in the immediate, say, the next 5 years. Is going to definitely change the way a lot of lawyers provide services, and then eventually it will start changing how a lot of consumers consume legal services as well. So let me start with the first bit, which is how is it going to change how we lawyers provide services. So, firstly, today, if for example I already actually we already consume a lot of legal technology. For instance, you would have often seen lawyers and their libraries of thousands of books, right? Today, I don't necessarily need that library at all. I don't need to invest in it. I use a resource, a database, which has essentially, I have at a sing, on my key, I can use my keyboard to access any judgment, and search through within seconds, using just, kind of just certain keywords, and it can pass through these thousands of judgments and put forth what is the most relevant. So that's already happening. Now, if you add a layer of intelligence to it, artificial intelligence to it, which basically is able to search through these hundreds and thousands of judgments far more intelligently, right? Then I am able to do away with. So when I needed an army of junior lawyers to help me go through a lot of judgments, for example. Legal technology is able to do that, cut that out for me, and sometimes provide me far more accurate, more relevant information faster. Likewise, basic contract drafting, right? I mean, today this technology is still very nascent, but very, very simple contracts. Today, you have technology which is able to generate those agreements very quickly, and you don't need those junior lawyers. So, what it is going to do in the next couple of years, I think, is basically do away with the very redundant kind of routine grunt work, and save time, right? I mean, and give you so that's one thing that AI is going to do. The second is then next level, when you have more sophisticated technology where consumers are directly able to consume, where the consumer itself can go to and ask a question of a chatbot, for example, and it is able to somewhat intelligently answer. Now, you will still not, maybe, I mean, we are many maybe decades away from where a lawyer, where technology can take away can remove the human kind of element of lawyering, right? I mean, it is also or the creative elements of lawyering, but the routine lawyering, for example, for sure can be delivered to a consumer much faster, much cheaper, and that's definitely going to happen.
All right. If I can ask you a personal question, your better half, Surbhi Goyal, handles PR and media of the law firm. How do you balance your personal and professional relationship?
Well, I don't think we have to really work hard towards balancing the two. It is you choose to be professionals when in a professional setting, and not when you're not. It, of course, it requires a little bit of juggling, which comes easier to some people and doesn't come very easily to others. A lot of people do ask me that question, but so far it's been great. It does. I mean, it can introduce certain challenges, yes, but for the most part, it's been smooth, been easy.
All right. So we have come to the end of this chat, and now we are going to have rapid fire. So brace yourself up, and those tough questions are going to come now.
Okay.
All right, let's have the oath. Whatever you will say will be the truth and nothing but the truth.
All right. I will
Okay.
skip that.
All right. So, what type of music do you listen to, Anirudh? Which is your favorite band or a singer or anything?
I listen to all kinds of music, really. I mean, I have my kind of moods where I will be listening to one kind of music for a very, very long period of time, and then I will
Okay.
move on to something else. So recently, I got hooked to some kind of classical Indian classical music, which I've been keeping up with. But I'm also learning to play the drums, which is now forcing me to, kind of listen to a lot more other genres, and that's exciting. But some of my favorite, musicians of all times are Yanni. I love listening to Yanni when I want something slightly more kind of, I just want to zone out of other stuff. I love listening to a particular song, which I mean, very cliche, but Hotel California. I can just listen to it at any point in time. I love listening to Pink Floyd a fair bit. That's typically the music that I listen to if I'm driving. So yeah, so I've different, genres
Yeah.
that I go to for different occasions.
Heard you saying that some of your interviews with the people you're going to hire or talks with other business clients happen over coffee or beer. So, which is your favorite beer? in
Which
India?
is my favorite beer? I'm not so much of a beer person, but
Okay,
since right now I'm in Goa, I think yeah, I mean there's something about beer and the beach, but Kingfisher is very very simple. I don't have something. Yeah, I'm very happy with my Kingfisher for the most part,
all
or
right.
yeah, or beer on the tap if I have access to that.
Okay. Tell us one thing, like if you would have done one thing differently, or to start again, what would it be? Like if you could have done one thing differently.
I have a ready answer for that. I would have taken a lot more risks much earlier in my life.
All right.
I don't think I did enough of that.
Acha. And what is one major challenge of starting a law firm?
Well, starting a law firm is about. I mean, it's like starting any other business. I think, if you look at it as a business, but see, ultimately, through and through, for any business, and more so for a very kind of for a professional services business like law, ultimately your the beginning of your challenges and the end of them will be people. And I don't even want to talk about people as a challenge. I mean, it's really the heart and soul of a law firm, right? Of a legal business. So, but all your problems, your challenges will be around hiring the right talent, retaining the right talent, dealing with people related kind of attrition related issues, etc. So that will always remain to be your biggest kind of you'll solve some and then you'll have fresh challenges.
Totally agree. Totally agree there. Since you are the tech kind of a person, tech law, do you play Fortnite or Minecraft?
Well, I don't actually, but I do work with a lot of digital gaming companies. Actually, we do a lot of we work with some of the biggest names in the country and outside as well. But I don't play myself. No.
That's the
So
reason I asked that
I'm
question.
not very tech savvy actually. I'm a which is quite ironical. A lot of people make fun of me, but we work with some of the most cutting edge kind of technology possible. But I'm not the most tech savvy. I understand it, but I understand how humans interface with technology. But I'm not very kind of comfortable myself kind of using technology. I'm not a great consumer of technology, basically.
Okay. One of your prized possession, which you have gathered over the years.
Oh, well, I mean, there are a couple, but the one that is just sitting next to me right now is, I don't know if you can see, is a new kind of
Wow.
electronic
Yeah.
drum kit, which I'm learning to play, and
All
I'm really
right.
enjoying that. Yeah.
Name your favorite author or any book recommendation for our viewers.
Well, quite a couple, but different genres, right? So I love reading short stories. I've not read them in a while, but nothing beats Jeffrey Archer. I can just go on and on reading Archer's short stories. I really enjoyed reading. Was it? Shantaram. It's been a while, but I remember, back in the day, I used to be
Good
working.
book.
Yeah, I
That's what.
remember actually during lunch breaks, coming back home from office during lunch breaks, and not eating lunch but reading and going back to the office. So I was that hooked to it. But in non-fiction, also I'm actually, well, it's right next to me. I've read, Jim Collins' Good to Great. So if anybody's into business books, I think this is like a game changer. It's one of those
Right.
very special books, and you can again keep reading it again and again.
All right. What annoys you the most? What annoys you the most? Something annoys you?
I'm not very easily annoyed, actually. I have, yeah, I don't have a lot of, patience for people who are, you know, just not making sense and not trying to kind of get the message.
Small talk, you think?
No, small talk I'm fine with, but good
Okay.
small talk. But I mean, don't bore me.
All right.
I'm perfectly fine with small talk. That's not a problem. I
Okay.
like doing small talk. Yeah. But
Do
I'm
you
not.
yourself?
I'm
Sorry,
sorry. I'm not.
I
I'm not easily annoyed either.
you cannot be annoyed easily. That's good quality. Do you invest in cryptocurrencies yourself?
No, I don't actually. I'm
All
so
right.
invested. I already have so much exposure to the industry. I mean, because we work with so many cryptocurrency businesses. I think I'm already I'm already very exposed to that industry. So I've not added the additional layer of investing. I don't for some reason. But that's also because investing in anything actually requires, I believe, if you want to, either you do it well, like it requires a lot of involvement, right? I
Hmm.
Because I like to understand. I don't take punts. I'm not risk averse, but I don't take punts. I like to understand what I'm investing in, and for which you need time, and I don't have that. So I would go with a solid advisor to help me with my investments. And for cryptocurrencies, I've not found the time to do that. I've not found the right advisors. I've kept away from it.
All right. Can you cook, Anirudh?
I make really good Maggie. And I make really good bagan bharta, but nothing else. These are the only two things I do. But as I kept saying, right, less is more. So you know two or three things, you do it very well, but nothing else.
So your bag and bharta would be a killer dish on the table because you
Even my
would.
Maggie is special, actually. I mean, a lot of people think that making Maggie is easy, but getting it right is an art, I say.
All right, that's amazing. And you are in Goa, and imagine what you're doing right now is chatting with me and a very busy lawyer who could take out this time for us. We are really very, very thankful to you from Bila Education Charitable Trust. And true to your name, Anirudh, you are unrestrained and unstoppable. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Joey. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I very much appreciate what the work that Bhilai Engineering Trust is doing in, uh, you know,
Bila Education Charitable Trust.
charitable trust,
Yeah.
taking all these messages to people who kind of, who would benefit from it. And so, thank you so much for inviting me. Feel honored.
Thank you so much. And we'll take more help from you when we start the mentorship program. We would like you to mentor one child a month, just 1 hour personal call with a child.
I look
Is it
forward to
okay?
that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anirudh, for your time.